Gomez is around, so he will also be giving us his goodwill message. So please kindly. Time is fast spent already, even though we did start on time, but I want to encourage us. So, the Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Benedict Ago, who is the Special Advisor to the Executive.
Break. This isn't a fantasy, but the very foundation of a strong public trust is the bedrock of governance. When citizens believe that their leaders are acting with honest, transitioning to civil rule in 1999, the country has witnessed the longest uninterrupted period of democratic governance. Challenges remain. Limited awareness of citizens' rights and participation avenues continue to be a participation can all act as a formidable barriers. But we must not forget that the immense power citizens possess participation. It is important to clarify these concepts. Citizens' participation refers to the expression of disagreement with an idea or policy. It is a crucial element of heading transparency and accountability. Their dedication to protecting socio-economic rights, fostering civil spaces in this high-level meeting with its distinguished participants presents a unique opportunity to National Human Rights Commission as the country's national human rights institution with the mandate to protect and enforce human rights in Nigeria. Benefits are far-reaching by working collaboratively, fostering a culture of inclusion, and upholding the fundamental rights enshrined in our Constitution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benedict. Our Ministry of Justice, they're represented here by Ms. Doris Okoroba Benjamin. And yes, we'll be. We're going to be inviting well, he just walked in now, is the director, but before he comes.
So, the presentation will take this format. I'll just give you a brief overview of the subject matter and then tell you how the research was done, and then highlight some important findings from the survey. So, the subject matter is one that is one of constitutional importance, and I'm grateful that my Lord Honorable Justice Peter Ige had already covered some of the points we're supposed to make preliminarily, and essentially it's just that dissent is allowed by Nigerian law. Even if you don't like what the person is saying, the person is allowed to dissent. And the research looked at participation in democracy and then protection of dissent in Nigeria's democratic space. For the study, we started with a desk review that looked at laws, policies, papers, literature, etc. And on the basis of that, research questions were drawn up, and then a survey tool was also prepared. And in administering the survey tool, we used two approaches. We used the purposive approach and snowballing. Purposive because the survey was trying to look or get information and data from people that had experienced or that had knowledge about certain kinds of things. So we couldn't do a household survey because you could go knocking from door to door and then you just find that you're not getting the information you need. So this kind of, for this kind of research, a household survey wouldn't do. So it had to be purposive. Again, we couldn't use a sampling frame. So ordinarily you could have maybe, for example, a list of lawyers in Nigeria. That's a sampling frame, and then you just randomly select from that sampling frame. We couldn't do that as well because information we're trying to get is not one that is listed in a database. You can't find the people you're looking for in a database. So we looked at certain kinds of people. We looked at activists, government officials, community leaders, individuals who have experienced challenges relating to dissent and democratic participation, journalists and media personnel, legal experts and advocates, academics and researchers, students and youth activists, officials of political parties. So that was the starting point. And from that starting point, we did snowballing. The researchers will speak to one person, and then the person will refer them to the next, and then you snowball. So those are the techniques that were adopted. And then afterwards, to contextualize the data that was collected, there were key informant interviews. All of these were done by researchers that were carefully selected and carefully trained. The research also had a very robust quality assurance component. As part of the quality assurance measures that were taken, electronic data collection tools were used, so it wasn't paper. So we could locate each researcher at every point in time. So someone that was supposed to be in Lagos, we could tell that the person was in Lagos. And when the person turned in their data, we could also identify that this one was from Abuja and that one was from Zamfara, etc. So just straight on now to some of the survey findings. One very interesting finding was that in dissent in Nigeria, the most common form of dissent is having people speak against government action or policy while conversing with colleagues, family, or friends. The other forms of dissent, there were people that supported political parties other than the government in power, those that supported the political opponent of the government in power, those that posted dissenting political views on social media, those that demonstrated or publicly protested against the government action or policy, and those that expressed dissenting political views on TV, radio, or newspapers. But we found that it is when people are with their colleagues, friends, and family that they express dissent the most. And the least form of expression of dissent was on TV, radio, and newspapers. But then, let's note this as we see some other findings later on, especially as it relates to consequences of expressing dissent. So, in addition to getting information and data relating to the experiences of the respondents themselves, we also got information and data relating to their knowledge of people, personal knowledge of others that had expressed dissent. So the report, as you'll find, also covers that. In the forms of dissent that the research found, that the study found, the male respondents were those that expressed dissent more than the female respondents. But then let's bear this in mind as we look at some other findings later on. Then in terms of educational status of dissenters, the survey found that respondents with no formal education did not engage in dissent as much as those with formal education. So those that had not gone to school, let me just put it that way, were less likely to engage in dissent than or as those that had gone to school. However, in terms of the kind of dissent, those that spoke or those that supported political opponents of government in power, for example, you had more people that were educated, involved in supporting a political opponent of the government in power or supporting the political party other than the government in power. But in terms of social media, for example, posting dissenting political views on social media, you find that those that have formal education were more involved in posting dissenting views on social media than those without formal education.
Development, citizens are allowed to come into the National Assembly today to learn about our structures and processes and so many other things. I'd encourage you to also find out a little more about that, to see how you can participate if you don't know about it already. It's holding from today till Friday. To appreciate the importance of citizen participation and dissent, we must first understand our historical context. Nigeria's history is marked by long periods of military rule, characterized by authoritarianism and repression. During these times, dissent was not merely discouraged, it was often met with severe reprisals. Voices of opposition were silenced, and the media was tightly controlled, creating an environment where fear stifled free expression and constructive criticism. This culture of hostility towards dissent left deep scars on our national psyche. Even after the transition to civilian rule, the remnants of the authoritarian mindset persisted. Many Nigerians, especially the older generation, have vivid memories of the times when expressing a dissenting opinion could lead to imprisonment or even worse. The historical background underscores the significance of our current democratic freedoms and the need to protect and expand them. I gave that background because a lot of our younger people are not very conscious of this. There's a lot of lamentation about a lot of things that are still wrong, but we fail to also acknowledge the fact that though we still have a long way to go, we have indeed also covered a lot of grounds in our democratic journey. It is essential to acknowledge that many younger Nigerians did not experience these dark chapters of our history firsthand. They have grown up in an era of relative democratic stability and may not fully grasp the struggles that brought us to where we are today. This generational gap in understanding can sometimes lead to under-appreciation of our democratic progress and the ongoing efforts required to sustain it. While we indeed have a long way to go in perfecting our democracy, we must also recognize and celebrate the strides we have made. It is incumbent upon us to educate the younger generation about our history and the value of the freedoms they enjoy. By doing so, we can foster a greater appreciation for the democratic processes and the importance of active participation and dissent. So, as my Lord, the retired justice had said, and also from the representative of the Nigerian Governors Forum, there is a legal framework that establishes the rights of citizens. Of course, we know Chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999, as amended, guarantees citizens' rights to freedom of expression, assembly and association. We have the Freedom of Information Act and other acts. And of course, on the international front, we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So that's to say that we have the legal and constitutional framework that guarantees these freedoms. But of course, civil society will always say, if there are gaps in our legal jurisprudence, if there are gaps in our laws that you believe that we need to correct, we're only too happy to work with civil society and other actors towards addressing some of these issues. A healthy democracy also thrives on the robust exchange of ideas, and dissent plays a pivotal role in this dynamic. Dissent is not only merely a right, but a vital component of democratic discourse. It challenges assumptions, stimulates critical debate, and brings to light perspectives that might otherwise be overlooked. However, for dissent to fulfill its democratic function, it must be protected and respected. Civil society organizations play a crucial role in safeguarding the space for legitimate dissenting voices. By advocating for the rights of individuals to express their views freely and without retribution, civil society ensures that our democracy remains vibrant and inclusive. There are a lot of points that we need to collectively address when it comes to issues of protecting dissent. For one, there is some degree of intimidation and harassment that we know that citizens do face. There are legal barriers, which I mentioned earlier, which we need to work together. As you might know, the House Committee on Constitution Review, chaired by the Deputy Speaker, is very, very open to working with civil society towards addressing some of these issues that we need to fill. Towards ensuring that the legal framework, properly protects Nigerians. Now, what have we been doing as a legislature? What has the 10th Assembly been doing? I know that, like I always say, historically, the National Assembly has always faced a lot of distrust. The National Assembly has always faced, the animosity of Nigerians based on reputational deficits over the years. But one thing I keep emphasizing is that the 10th Assembly House of Representatives is very different. I know my remarked.
That wasn't from me.
It wasn't from you. Okay. Someone said, the 10th Assembly House of Representatives. Well, it is our duty, right, to keep on addressing these misconceptions. One thing that we face is when someone says, oh, this happened, that happened, and then they tell you, oh, this happened in the 9th Assembly, in the 8th Assembly, in the 6th Assembly. We can't do very much about things that have happened in the past. There's a difference between the House of Representatives, broadly speaking, and the 10th Assembly. The Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin-led 10th Assembly is very intentional about the fact that we're going to address this idea that the House of Representatives, the National Assembly generally, are self-serving, or there are people that don't care very much about Nigerians. In everything that we've done, we've always emphasized that. For one, even within the National Assembly, within the House of Representatives, we have 8 political parties represented. For the first time in our 4th Republic, 8 political parties. So that shows you the diverse nature of the House. For the first time, we had a huge turnover between the 9th and the 10th Assembly. Over 75%, thereabout, are new members, totally new members. And you see from the quality of our debates, from the quality of our engagements on the floor, you see that it is a house that nurtures dissent. We have dissenting voices. Issues around the national anthem, for example. We had people that raised, dissenting opinions, but at the end of the day, we arrive at a conclusion based on the collective wisdom of the House. But everybody is given an opportunity to be able to express dissent. So we are also leading by example to say that we are not a rubber stamp National Assembly. Last week, we had a situation where the executive arm of government reached out, sent a letter, an executive bill to amend the provisions of the 2023 Appropriation Act and 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Act. And there was dissent about it. People that felt strongly that that wasn't the way to go. And we heard everybody. Everybody was heard. But at the end of the day, we came together, to, in that collective wisdom, be able to take a decision to be able to pass it. That's to say that we, by ourselves, are showing a good example that dissent should be encouraged. Now, what have we done? You'd see, this is the most communicative house, as much as possible. Sometimes you have as much as 3, 4 press releases that come out every day. We are constantly engaging with Nigerians. We've had sectoral debates to engage with different sectors. We've had sectoral debates on security, on the economy, on finance, on agriculture, different things. This is an assembly that has had several town hall meetings. Even the process of creating our legislative agenda was through a process of building consensus with civil society, media, and other actors. So we are very intentional, like I said, currently to mark the first anniversary of the end of the first session. We are currently holding an open week that allows different actors to come into the National Assembly, the People's House, to engage with us. So in concluding my remarks, I want to tell you and assure you that the 10th Assembly
fought pitched battles against military autocrats, expanding the democratic space and deepening citizens' participation is not an option, but an urgent and strategic imperative. As civil society activists and concerned Nigerians, we must reflect deeply and ponder on how we can build a democratic citizenship that will not only participate effectively in the democratic process, but will be the main determinants of the direction of Nigeria's democracy. We have in mind a democratic citizenship that recognizes the infinite possibilities of a civil democratic system, works assiduously to build, sustain, and consolidate it, and are ready to defend it against the assaults of anti-democratic forces. Citizens' participation in the democratic process must not stop with elections. The people have a stake in how they are governed. Aloofness and apathy have only strengthened the hands of bad leaders. The people must, in their respective communities, organize town hall meetings to vigorously interrogate leaders on their stewardship. Failure to meet the expectations of the people should be a basis for voting such leaders out of office. Apart from elections, sustained political pressure through peaceful demonstrations can lead to resignations. The budget-making process and implementation processes must occupy the attention of the people. To effectively hold leaders accountable, the people must be given the necessary tools and training. NGOs can play a critical role in this regard. A major pillar of our governance agenda in Kaduna State is nurturing citizens' engagement. We are committed to carrying the people along in decision-making processes, especially on how their resources are allocated and expended. We recognize the important and strategic role of citizens in holding government accountable and accelerating growth and development. Consequently, we have been holding regular meetings with Kaduna State Elders Forum, religious leaders, youth and women groups to share thoughts on development issues or concerns, current and emerging security issues, and fashion strategies on how to address developmental challenges and win the hearts and minds of the people. The people are the greatest weapons against enemies of progress and development. The people must work together with security agencies to deny criminal elements safe havens wherever they are. As servants of the people, we place high premium on transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability are not principles to be trifled with. They promote trust, integrity, and responsible behavior in government. They are at the heart of good governance and legitimacy. Take them away and our claim to public acceptability crumbles. The Kaduna State government has taken certain steps to institutionalize transparency and accountability in the public sector. We have created effective policy and legal frameworks, strengthened the public procurement process, and has been strategically engaging civil society organizations. Before I end this goodwill message, it is important to touch briefly on the issue of press freedom. Should the media engage civil democratic governments the same way it engaged military governments? During military rule, confrontation was an acceptable strategy. But democracy is about rules, processes, and procedures. The media, therefore, needs fundamental retooling to effectively engage the civil democratic dispensation. In a democracy, you must be thorough and dig deep. No room for speculations. Your reports must be factual or evidence-based. The challenge before the media, therefore, is how to balance the demand for freedom with the pursuit of truth and upholding of ethical values and behavior. The only way the media can push back the forces of media regulation or gagging is to effectively self-regulate its activities. It must strengthen its internal mechanisms for sanctioning erring journalists. Additionally, the media and progressive forces must take the challenge of weeding out criminals from the social media or other new media platforms seriously. The media can work closely with progressive members of the National Assembly and civil society organizations to put together a solid bill that will sanitize the social media and make it a true democratic platform, a marketplace of ideas, not an avenue for damaging people's reputations and deepening conflicts and hate in our society. I thank you for this opportunity. I wish you fruitful deliberation.
Responsibility to maintain the highest standard of professionalism to the ideas of fairness and justice and the sustenance of healthy relationship between all arms and tiers of government. As part of our ministry's mandate, it is essential to ensure access to justice to all persons, irrespective of their social, political, ethnic, and political stand, and to the observance of the rule of law and due process by all ministries, departments, and agencies of government. In ensuring citizens' rights and protection, they can access justice through our ministry. The ministry has different departments and units and agencies who work together in ensuring access to justice to all. And also, we are committed in working with SIRAP and other non-governmental agencies whose goals and mission is ensuring citizens access to justice. The Federal Ministry of Justice, in ensuring all citizens access justice, has different departments and agencies under it. And this is an agency that speaks particularly to the discourse today is the Department of Citizens' Rights. The department is crucial in ensuring citizen access justice. This department is charged with the responsibility of ensuring that all citizens whose fundamental right is to access justice do so peacefully. This department is the human rights face of the ministry. It indulges in referring citizens to other appropriate agencies where the Federal Ministry of Justice can meet their needs. This department assists them in assessing justice and also serves as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism where it encourages petitioners to explore mediation and with the hope of reaching amicable settlement. Our ministry is committed in ensuring that all citizens of this country can access justice freely, irrespective of their ethnic, religion, political stand. We commend SIRAP for their good initiative in engaging citizens and the government in this discourse today. It couldn't have come at a better time. We wish all guests and participants present a good and fruitful deliberation. Thank you. Thank you.
All work together to create a Nigeria where every voice is heard, every opinion is valued, and every citizen feels empowered to contribute to the nation's development. To this end, we call on civil society organizations to continue their vital work in advocating for citizen rights and providing platforms for engagement. We urge the private sector to support initiatives that promote civic participation and social responsibility. Most importantly, we encourage every Nigerian to take an active role in its democratic process. Your voice matters and your participation is crucial to the success of our nation. In conclusion, enhancing citizen participation and protecting dissent are not just ideals, they are fundamental to the progress and stability of our democracy. As chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, I pledge our unwavering commitment to these principles. Together, let us build a Nigeria where every citizen is empowered to participate, every dissent voice is respected, and our democracy continues to grow stronger. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. This public presentation has exposed critical findings. I use the word expose not because it is not public knowledge, but because within the context of what is happening, it raises the bar and sheds light on the nature of participation and dissent in governance in Nigeria. From the findings of the report, we've seen that a greater percentage of Nigerians only feel free to express critical views that appears to be critical of government policies, actions with their friends and families and colleagues. That means that they do not feel they are free to do it in public. And the research also found that for those who have done it in public, particularly on social media, they have either experienced some sort of reprisals or they expect some sort of reprisals. And that also leads to some sort of citizen self-censorship. That is what we found through this report. And that means that participation in governance has been largely reduced to voting every 4 years at elections. And we can see the number of registrations also dwindling by the. It means that in the next 3 or 4 years when we go to the polls, INEC and other government agencies will have to do a lot more work to get people to even vote. Because even the conversation in between the years, between the 4 years of voting, it's not really encouraged. And so the reason why we have such conversations, particularly among the stakeholders, which are public institutions, is to make them understand, give them some sort of feedback as to what the people perceive, what the people feel, and to get their buy-in and a commitment to do better, to make the people understand that they need to participate in governance and create a level playing free ground for people to do that.
Yeah, that sums it up.
What I talked about was community policing, which is functional in one form across the country in the name of vigilante. What we are saying is that chairman of council should have the authority to operate that part of policing system. And for tenure, there's no reason why the president should have 4 years. The governors should have 4 years. And council chairmen who are the closest to the grassroots should not have 4 years. Because it helps you to plan and it helps you to properly deliberate on issues that affect the communities. So, amongst other things, these are, of course, the general case of autonomy is a big basket, but we're taking on the issues one after the other. And I must commend the National Assembly, particularly the President and all the stakeholders, even the governors. A lot of governors are not opposed to our position, as it were. The chairman of council must have more authority to function properly and see how, because the existence of this country rests on the growth of local governments. If the local governments are not functioning well, you not expect. Nigeria is where it is today because the local governments are not functioning well. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's infrastructure, social development, these are basic issues that affect local administration. And once they are working well at that level, for instance, you're in this ground. This ground here is a local government. It's an area called a local government. So I think that once we're able to sort out these issues, we'll have a lot to be thankful to God about, particularly community policing. It's distinct from state police. It's very distinct. Community police, we're dealing with constables, constabulary, we're dealing with people who can get information. I mean, you don't enter any community today and your vigilante is not aware of it. You don't. So you are strengthening it to make sure they are more efficient and you know they are responsible to government.
Thank you very much, sir. Your name again, sir?